Hey everyone, and welcome to episode number 1 of the Computer Business Podcast.
Welcome to the Computer Business Podcast, where you'll learn how to start and grow your own successful computer business. And now, here's your friendly neighborhood computer guy, Matthew Rodella.
1, 2, 3, hit!
Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Computer Business Podcast. I am Matthew Rodella, aka your friendly neighborhood computer guy, and this is the podcast where you can learn to start and grow your own computer business. You can find episode show notes as well as access all past episodes at computerbusinesspodcast.com. So in today's episode, I'm going to introduce you to the Computer Business Podcast. I'll talk about what I have planned for the future, who I am, and the journey that brought me here. But first off, let me just tell you a little bit about why I started this podcast to begin with. You see, I run a little blog called Your Friendly Neighborhood Computer Guy, and you can find that at yfncg.com. I've been blogging on that site for just shy of 5 years now. On the blog, I write about my experiences starting and running a computer business. I actually started the blog before I even started my business, back when I just had the idea of starting a computer business. I did this because I wasn't able to find, at the time, any good resources online that could help me figure out what I needed to do to start the computer business. So I decided to start one of my own. So I just started writing posts about the different experiences I had trying to figure out how to start a computer business and the stuff I learned along the way. So since then, I have actually started my computer business. And this whole time, I've kept on blogging at Your Friendly Neighborhood Computer Guy. So please, if you haven't checked it out yet, go check it out. It's been a labor of love of mine for many years now, and I'm sure you'll be able to find some helpful info on there. So again, that's yfncg.com. So anyway, after so many years of just writing boring old blog posts, I decided I want to expand my offerings on the site and explore new mediums for providing info to my readers. So I decided to poll my subscribers and ask them directly questions about what they'd like to see happen on Your Friendly Neighborhood Computer Guy. So I sent the poll to my mailing list subscribers, and that was in June, I believe, of last year, so a little while ago. One of the things that I was surprised on was that the overwhelming majority of my readers actually requested that I start a podcast. Of all of the items that I polled on, that was the top request. So that was great news because I had been toying with the idea of recording a podcast for a while. I'd been a guest on a couple podcasts in the past, like The Force Field and Computer America, and I really had a lot of fun doing them. Those are all podcasts about the computer business. I also love listening to podcasts myself. I actually can't get enough of them. I listen to them on my way to visit clients for my business, and just anytime I'm alone in the car, I'll throw on a computer business podcast. And there'll be times when I'm all caught up on all the episodes from all the podcasts I listen to, and I'm just like waiting for the next episode to come out. So I figured there would be room for another computer business podcast out there because there really aren't that many of them. So now, after months of preparation, the Computer Business Podcast is born. I'm really excited to be doing this. I'm really looking forward to having fun with it while providing you guys and gals out there with a great resource for you, whether you're looking to start a computer business, whether it's kind of like an idea in the back of your mind that you're toying around with, but you haven't quite pulled the trigger yet. This podcast is going to help you with that. But this is also going to be a great resource for those of you who already have a computer business and you're still, you're looking to improve it or expand it, which, anyone who has a business should be doing. You definitely want to continue to grow your business. So that's what I'm looking to do with the Computer Business Podcast. Let me go ahead and go over my kind of overall vision for the podcast. Each episode I'm going to try to incorporate an overall topic or theme, and then that will be broken down into a few different segments. I'll be covering mostly topics that deal with the business side of things, like if it's best to work from home or work out of a storefront, how to get more customers, how to find that sweet spot where you charge what you're worth without turning customers away because you're charging too much, and stuff like how to hire your first employee, how to cover yourself legally. I find that the computer business podcasts that are out there, they talk a lot about the tools and the techniques that you can use to actually repair computers. And so I kind of want to focus more on the business side of things and get you to a place where you can be growing and improving your computer business. So the way the episodes are going to be structured is I'll start off by talking about my own business and any lessons I've learned or funny stories I've experienced recently. And that's kind of how I'll kick each episode off. Those stories may or may not tie into the overall topic of that particular episode. This is going to be kind of a very free-form part of the show. It's going to be a way to get some first-hand experiences of mine out there for you all to relate to and learn from and even, comment on if you want. So after that segment, I'll start my featured segment, in which I'll talk about the episode's main topic in detail. I might do this via my own research or experiences, or a lot of times I'll have someone on the show that I'll be interviewing, some kind of guest, either another computer business owner or an expert in the industry. And this section is going to be the meat of the podcast. This is where you're going to get all the good, juicy information. And then finally, I'll end each episode with a recommended tool or resource that I feel can help computer business owners with a given topic. This tool will be something that I've used before, so I can vouch for its effectiveness. I want to make sure that I firsthand know that it works well. And then that'll be about it. Hopefully down the road, if things go well and people start listening to the podcast, I can start answering listener questions on the show as well, which I'm hoping to make a big part of the of future episodes. So, I want to keep these shows around 30 minutes in length, give or take 10 or 20 minutes. It just depends. But the length will vary based on the topic and, what guests I have available and stuff like that. So that's basically how the podcast is going to work. Now, you'll notice for this first episode, I'm deviating from this structure a little bit, but I hope to stick to that structure moving forward. I'm a big fan of maximizing my time, and I want to make sure that this podcast has the most bang for your buck. So I want to keep it structured so that I don't deviate from the topic or ramble on and waste your time, because that's the opposite of what I want to do with this podcast. So now that we've gotten all that out of the way, you may be asking yourself, who is this Matthew Rodella guy? And what makes him think he's so special that he can start a podcast? Well, imaginary listener, let me answer that first question first. So my name is Matthew Rodella. I'm 32 years old, and I live about 40 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. Aside from running a computer business, I'm also a professional musician. I play trumpet and guitar and do a bit of singing and songwriting. In fact, I was in the Army for 4 years as a trumpet player, and today I still serve as a member of the National Guard Band in Maryland. And actually, the 4 years serving full-time in the Army is where my computer business story starts. You see, in the Army, you normally have your primary MOS, which stands for Military Occupational Specialty. This can be anything from infantry to medic to, in my case, musician. But you also usually carry out other supplemental duties in addition to your primary MOS. These side jobs help to support your unit and keep it running, kind of like a business. You kind of have to wear a bunch of different hats as a business owner, and that's kind of how units are in the military. So when I joined the Army, I had an interest in computers already, but I hadn't had any real professional experience. So on a whim, I decided to volunteer to be the assistant to the information management officer, who is the guy who served as the IT support for the unit. So I was actually accepted onto the job because it was open and nobody else wanted to do it. So from there, I got my first experiences helping people resolve their computer issues. It was a great opportunity for someone like me who had no experience to actually get hands-on with troubleshooting issues with Windows and Outlook and printers, real simple stuff, but it was definitely a great learning experience. It helped me learn how to deal with people and that sort of thing. So fast forward about a year after I got out of the Army, it took about another year for me to finally land a job as a paid intern for the IT department of a local pharmaceutical company. I started off doing things like changing toner in printers and swapping out hardware parts and desktops and laptops, pretty simple stuff. But eventually, after a few months, actually, I got hired onto the help desk as a full-time employee. And over the years, I rose up the ranks to help desk level 2, and then eventually as a server administrator, where I was in charge of monitoring and maintaining a few hundred Windows servers for the company. Overall, I spent about 6 years at this company, and I learned so much. I learned how to talk to end users on the phone, how to talk to them in person. I learned a lot about IT process and the importance of having good processes and routines. I also learned that I loved helping people fix computer problems. I loved the interaction with people as much as I loved the interaction with technology. And so that's kind of how computer consulting works. You really have to spend as much time helping customers as you do solving technology problems. So anyways, once I got promoted to the server group after I left the help desk, I started feeling like part of my joy was missing, honestly. I wasn't helping people directly. Instead, I was just patching servers and filling out change control paperwork. Server admin is traditionally the next step in a typical IT career. And so, I felt good taking that step. I got a good pay raise. I was getting paid very well. And I was just kind of following the traditional track. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking it just wasn't the direction I wanted to go. I saw my managers, they were always playing politics more than they were, creating solutions. And playing politics is not really my strong suit. The problem was the work that I liked doing, which was helping people directly, doesn't pay too well in corporate IT. That's why I moved out of the help desk, because it didn't pay too well. So that's when I started looking into going out on my own as a computer consultant. And that's also the time that I started my blog, Your Friendly Neighborhood Computer Guy. So I spent a few years growing my computer business on the side part-time while I was still working as a server administrator at my corporate job. I spent some time learning all I could about the process of starting a computer business, and I made sure I did everything I could to set up my business properly. Finally, I got to the point where I was getting a good amount of clients for my part-time business, and around the same time, my work life had gone downhill pretty quickly. I wasn't fulfilled at all in that area of my life. They were outsourcing a bunch of jobs in IT, and it was just really getting too much politics and not enough, engaging work was going on. So that's when I took the plunge and quit my job. It was a big risk because I had a mortgage at the time and car payments and all those kind of obligations. I'd saved some money and I had some retirement money that I could pull from as a last resort to keep me afloat if I needed to while I grew my business. So I felt like I was in a good position to take the leap. The feeling that you have when you quit your job to go out on your own and start any kind of business, I can kind of liken to the experience you would have after leaving college to go into the workforce, or in my case, when I left military life for civilian life. You're leaving a place that's very structured. You're told where to go, when to be there, how to do certain things. And then you leave that and go to a world that's kind of open. You don't know what to do, when to do it, or how to do it. It's kind of all up to you. And this can be a very freeing, but also a very scary prospect. And this is kind of the way I felt after I quit my job. The world was my oyster, but I had no idea what to do with that oyster when I had it. So I'm going to be honest with you here. And that's kind of what I want to do in this podcast. I want to give it to you straight. I don't want to, tiptoe around some of the harsh realities of this business. So in my case, starting my computer business was rough. It was way more challenging than I had ever anticipated. In fact, for the first year and a half of starting my business, I really didn't make any money at all. I'd used up all my savings, all my retirement fund. I'd maxed out all my credit cards and even started borrowing money, unfortunately, from my family in order to stay afloat. So I feel very lucky in that regard that I did have some resources that I could turn to, but it definitely was not an easy experience. From the outside looking in, you might think I probably should have quit. I know a few people who think I should have quit and gone back into the workforce at that time. I should have just cut my losses and went back working to 9 to 5, but I just couldn't. Deep down, I knew that I could make my computer business work. It was what I was passionate about, and I just needed to be smarter about it. I loved what I was doing. I still love what I'm doing, and it's one of those things I just can't give it up. I'm gonna make it work no matter what. It was taking a lot more time and effort than I had ever dreamed possible. So that was kind of a harsh reality for me that it's not easy and it's not even tricky. It's hard. But good news is right now my business is about 2 years old and I've been profitable for the last 6 months of my business. It's been growing at a steady pace now, and I think I've implemented some things in the business that have been able to help it grow. I was able to turn things around. And so, in future podcasts, I'm going to talk about some of the things I've done that turned my business around, because I think those things could help other folks who might be stuck in the same rut that I was when I first started my business. Also, I'd like to talk about in the future how you can avoid some of the mistakes I made if you're still looking to start a computer business. Because I could have done some, in retrospect, thinking back at it, there's a few things that I could have done that might have helped me be more successful sooner. At this point, you may be asking yourself, why should I listen to some schmuck who's only been in business for 2 years? And for most of that time, he was unsuccessful. Well, I want to serve as an example of not only what not to do, and believe me, I've learned some valuable lessons about what not to do, but also I want to be an inspiration for those who may be in a similar situation. I want to show you what I've done to improve my business, and I want to share what I learn along the way. And, that's what made my blog over at Your Friendly Neighborhood Computer Guy so unique. I'm not an expert or a guru, and I've never claimed to be. I'm just a guy trying to make it in this business, and I think people could relate to that. I'm learning new things every day, and if I can pass on that knowledge and help just one person out there avoid a mistake that I've made in the past, then I think it's worth it. And that's what this podcast is all about. So that's my story. I hope you'll join me on future episodes of the Computer Business Podcast as I share what I've learned. Also, keep in mind, the majority of these episodes will feature a guest of some sort, so you'll benefit not only from my perspective, but from the view of other people in the field.
It's time to open the Computer Business Toolbox.
For today's tool, I'm going to be a little selfish and promote one of my own creations. I'm not going to do this often, but seeing as how this is the first episode of the podcast and I'm kind of making this episode about me, I might as well plug something that I have out there. It's a free resource. So honestly, what do you have to lose, right? It's my ebook called 20 Things You Can Do Right Now to Improve Your Computer Business. It's a free ebook, and it will give you 20 practical tips that you can implement right away to give your computer business a boost. I talk about ways you can keep your existing customers coming back for more. I also talk about some of the best social media and how to utilize it for your business. I discuss some services and tools that you can use in your business, and it's all for free and available at my blog, yfncg.com. You can, when you visit the website, over on the right side in the sidebar, just under my introduction, you'll see a place where you can get that book. All I ask in return is for your name and email address, and what that will do is that will get you signed up for Your Friendly Neighborhood Computer Guy newsletter, which is something I send out, 1 or 2 emails a month, and it's all very helpful stuff, spam free. I'm not trying to sell you anything. It's just kind of useful tips for computer business owners. Now, this is where I need your help. This podcast is for you, the listener, so I want to make sure I'm giving you the best show possible. That means I want to hear your feedback, good or bad. Let me know how I'm doing, what shows you like, what topics you'd like me to discuss in the future. Also, if you ever have any questions that you'd like me to answer on the air, I welcome those as well. Actually, I'd like to start doing that in the future. For any kind of correspondence you have for me, just send an email to matthew@computerbusinesspodcast.com. Or you can visit the website, computerbusinesspodcast.com, and go to the contact form to reach out. So that does it for the first episode of the Computer Business Podcast. I'm so excited you decided to join me here, and I'm looking forward to having many more episodes for you in the future. I'm looking to do this maybe about once a month to start, and then we'll see how it goes. If I enjoy doing it and I get a lot of good feedback, I don't see why I couldn't start doing this maybe weekly, making this a weekly thing. But right now, I'm busy with my business, so I think probably keeping this to maybe once or twice a month is going to be the best I can do for now. You can check out all the episodes again at computerbusinesspodcast.com. My name is Matthew Rodella, also known as Your Friendly Neighborhood Computer Guy. This has been the Computer Business Podcast. Here's to your success.